Hey, good morning. It's episode 314 of Odd Musings. That's right, it's the pie episode.
That's right. Oh, we should have pie on the episode today.
Yes. Of course, now we're all going to want pie. Me, I usually like a chocolate pie or a key lime pie. Not much for much of the fruit pies. Don't care for the cherry or the pecans or things like that. But hey, not everybody is. How's it going, Scott?
It's going good. It's been just the weeks just fly by. It's been crazy, but in a good way. I'm very busy with real estate still, so that's good. And keeping things moving forward.
Yeah. No, it's been a busy couple weeks since we were last on the air. And made a quick trip down to Florida, checked on Dad, did a few things down there at the house, and then did take him to a ball game. Him and Mom and I went to see the Tampa Bay Rays and the Phillies play at Tropicana Field. Had a good time.
Nice.
Got some insanely huge nachos. They have these pulled pork nachos that were really good. And they're like literally it's like this big, comes in a tin this deep, and they're so piled high. We ate maybe half to maybe 2/3, but it was just too much food. But of course, for me too, I ate some of the nachos, but I had a Cuban too there because I saw they had a Cuban stand. So
when in Florida, you must have the Cubans.
I do love a good Cuban sandwich, and I knew we weren't going to make it to the Columbia this time, so which I need to get back to Columbia because it's been too long since I've been to the Columbia for a good Cuban. So, but yeah, so I got back and then been working ever since, and getting ready to leave next week Tuesday for San Diego Comic-Con.
God, already. That's crazy.
Yeah. I gotta get me a lanyard still, but they sent me my badge already, and I don't want to show off too much information, but yeah, there it is. So with all its security and everything else tied into it. So, but hey, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about and get caught up on. I have not watched today's Secret Invasion yet.
Yeah, me neither.
But I did watch last week so far, so we'll talk a little bit about that too. But hey, why don't you get us started, Scott?
All right. Well, Team China's Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize latest and tools and technology to maximize your home buying experience, we never forget at its core, it's a people business. So a lot's been going on with real estate. Market's been going up. One of the things that we're starting to see, though, the reality of our economy. House prices have gone up something like 148% over the last couple of years, while wages have only gone up 26%, if I remember right. That's not a good scenario. So there's a lot of people who are starting to live off their credit cards because of the rates of inflation. If you're in a house with a high mortgage rate, you might want to consider, while the market's still hot, downsizing, selling off that house, taking what cash you can and putting it towards a large down payment towards a smaller house with a smaller mortgage payment. So this is a perfect economy for that kind of thing. Also, if you have secondary homes like investment properties or rentals, you may want to get rid of those as well. So give us a call, 586-232-5144. We'll do a full market analysis, tell you what your home is worth. And it's not just, we don't just do a quick little internet search and just tell you what the computer says. We come out, we see your house in person. We take into account all the specifics of your house, good and bad, what upgrades you have, what things are you lacking. We take all that into account to tell you a very accurate analysis of what your house is worth. So, and then we can help you, downsize to an easier mortgage so you're not struggling so much, because the last thing you want to do is put your whole life on credit cards, because that's a hole that is hard to get out of. So give us a call, 586-232-5144.
Excellent. And then we have,
I'll post it here in the phone number into the comments there. There you go.
All right. And we have Larger Family Chiropractic Center, PC. They are located in Belleville, Michigan and Dexter, Michigan. They take great pride in providing the finest chiropractic care to each and every patient, offering on-site digital x-rays. Massage therapy is, I think, still might be going on a little bit longer because they've had some delays in starting up their new stuff. They also offer aromatherapy, vitamins, all in a family-oriented environment. Give them a call, 734. Oh, sorry, I lost the number there. My phone. There we go. Right here. Call now, 734-697-4244. Or you can find them online at Lawrence Family Chiropractic Center PC on Facebook or LawrenceFamilyChiropractic.com.
Sweet.
So,
yeah, we got a lot of topics to cover, between, us having a week off and all the stuff on. And
Well, since we talked yesterday, they dropped a new Ahsoka trailer.
Yes. Actually, I haven't even watched it yet. I saw a little tiny like the starts pop up. I was so busy yesterday, I actually didn't sit down and watch it.
I watched it during the All-Star game last night, but let me pull it up here because we do need to get it. We haven't had a letter from Disney in a while. So, second here, get that going there. Boom. Share the stream screen, and there it is. Oh, all right. And
war is inevitable. One must destroy in order to create. We are no Jedi.
I started hearing whispers of Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
What happens when we find Thrawn?
Power, such as you've never dreamed.
I've spent most of my life fighting a war. That's why I'm trying to convince you to help me prevent another one. You and I both know who could help you with this.
She's still just as stubborn as ever.
I bet your master found you difficult at times.
Anakin never got to finish my training. I walked away from him, just like I walked away from Sabine.
You never made things easy for me, Master.
As a Jedi, sometimes you have to make the decision no one else can. But I'm counting on you to see this through.
Nice haircut. Sometimes we have to do what's right, regardless of our personal feelings.
Buckle up.
If we don't stop Thrawn, everything will be in vain. You have no power.
Anakin spoke highly of you.
I'm not here to discuss my past.
We have a lot of work to do.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Nice.
like I said, it looks amazing.
Looks great. So some things that came out that when she's talking to Braylon, I think is his name, Ray Stevenson. Stevenson or Stevens?
I think it's Stevenson.
Stevenson, yeah, who recently passed away.
Mhm.
They're in the Veil of the Force there, the world between worlds or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Because you can see the way it is in the background there. So it looks like they're encountering within there. So that's cool. Did you notice the astromech droid?
Yes.
What it's designed after?
I didn't notice that.
So I saw people posting the comparison, but R2. Let's see if I can get the picture. Actually, I'll do this one. R2. So if you go back to, here we go. Share this. I'm building suspense. Okay, so you go to the original R2-D2 toy. That's the proportions in the Ahsoka trailer of the R2 unit that they show.
Oh,
and it's got
okay.
these 2 teardrop things on the side here, which is they have those little dents there in there.
Yeah.
So they made it to the exact proportions of the original R2 toy. So that's what that R2 unit's designed after.
Yeah, that's got to be a Filoni bit too.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's cool.
Well, one of the pictures up there, the one right to the right of the one you just had, that's a little bit better picture. You can see it more standing up. To the right.
This one?
To no, over to the left.
Left?
No, to the right of your original picture.
I don't know what you're talking
Four
about.
from the left.
This one?
There, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's more of a
So see how
Better
big
imaging.
the center eye is compared
Yeah.
to, and that's how the proportions are on that. So I thought that was
Okay.
a funny Easter egg.
Oh, there's me. I know Filoni's gonna have a ton in there, but I noticed like these force wielders, can't call them Jedi or Sith because they're got orange.
Right.
They're
They're not. I think what they're doing is like, I think they're exploring like the gray Jedi's.
yeah.
So whereas Ahsoka doesn't follow the light or the dark fully, she leans towards good, and I have a feeling this is going to be a similar philosophy, but they lean towards the bad instead. And
Yeah.
I think the orange is, that's why it's not full blown red.
But of course, they are of course just like every other Sith and everything else, looking for more power.
Yeah. So they're probably more like the Punisher.
Yeah.
They're probably like good guys doing bad. So I don't know, but I'm looking forward to it. I love what Filoni's doing.
It's nice we get a 2-episode premiere.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how long the Ahsoka series is. I don't think it's very long. I think it's only about 7 or 8 episodes.
Yeah.
So let's see if they got a listing on that or not.
And from the rumors, I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, but from the rumors during filming, I believe Hayden Christensen filmed scenes. So I don't know if they'll do it as flashbacks of him as Anakin with her.
Well, they dropped his name, the Anakin name, a couple times. So
right.
I would say, I wouldn't be surprised if when he was doing everything with Kenobi,
right,
they filmed some stuff for Ahsoka.
Yeah. So will he be as Anakin, or will he be in the armor as Vader?
I think we'll have more. I think, to be honest, I would only think
both.
I'd be just Anakin. And the reason is we in the Rebels series we saw her take on Vader through the veil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she takes on him again anywhere else. They've not at least alluded to that yet. They could, of course, create something within this, but I think it's gonna be more of her. Some of the stuff towards the end of, before she left the Order, would be tied into that. So, but interesting to see. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
They could recreate the scene of her leaving him too, because she does reference it.
Yeah.
In there too, they could recreate the scene that was caught in the animated series.
Yeah, maybe expand on it a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I really like what Filoni does.
Yeah, and Sabine too. They've got her back, and they're alluding to that she's training in the Force.
Yeah.
So she called Ahsoka Master. So
she called her Master, and there are shots of her. I believe she has Ezra's lightsaber.
Yeah.
And there's shots of her using the lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm trying to remember though. They've never indicated her as being Force sensitive in the cartoons, right?
That's what I don't remember.
Everything
was tied into the Mandalore. So
yeah, I know she trained how to use the dark saber.
Yeah, the Screen Rant does say the trailer does show her as a Force sensitive and become Ahsoka Tano's new apprentice, but then they went their own way.
Yeah.
So that's going to be so that's what they've not really dealt with before,
right?
So
yeah, and then it's good to see a live action Sabine, or not Sabine,
Hera
Syndulla.
Yep. And then
did I hear correctly? The actress who plays Hera, is that Ewan McGregor's wife in real life?
Yes.
So his uncle.
They just got married last year, though.
Yeah. So his uncle plays Wedge Antilles in the original trilogies. He plays Obi-Wan, and now his wife plays Hera. And his daughter was in the Kenobi series as a cameo.
Yeah, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is his wife and plays Hera. You know her from Sky High. She was the techno bad person.
That's right.
She was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World. She was Scott Pilgrim's girlfriend. She's done a ton of movies over the years, so she's been around a lot. So I mean, if you Google her, I knew who she was, but I was trying to see what other stuff she was in. Just tons of stuff. So
yeah,
dating back, she's like 38 right now, but she did like the Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn, which I have never seen. She played Helena Bertinelli in that one. She goes all the way back to 2007 for Live Free or Die Hard. She played Lucy Gennaro. She played Bruce Willis's daughter. So
Cool.
so she's been around. I like her. I think she's great. She looks great as Hera. So I
Yeah.
think she's gonna
Yeah.
fit in just fine. And that so I love that they are actually doing what I'd hoped for an animated series originally after they ended Rebels to continue, but I like that they've gone live action with this and they're tying it all in with the current live action shows and things like that they're doing in that era with the Mandalorian and that. So
Yeah. So now we've seen everybody in live action other than Kanan. I wouldn't mind if they did some kind of flashback sequence and brought Freddie Prinze Jr. in to play Kanan, since he's the voice actor for him and he's a legit actor.
yes.
And have him in a flashback sequence as Kanan, just so we get a live action version of
And
him.
he's at an age right now he could play Kanan and look the age. So
I agree. I think it would work perfect. So, so I'm just floating that out there. I'm sure Filoni's already got that in his head.
Yeah, but Freddie Prinze Jr. just commented a bunch of times already and said no, he's not doing it. He says that's not. He said that story's done. It's been told. So,
I can see him do it as a cameo.
I can see a cameo flashback. Now, of course,
that's what I mean. Not as a regular.
Yeah, but I can see it also where he's saying no, and then he'll pop up for that one time and kind of like Mark Hamill. I'll never be Luke Skywalker again.
Yeah,
here he goes marching.
All right.
At the end of the Mandalorian, like whatever.
Yeah, actors saying no doesn't mean anything anymore because they have such tight confidentiality agreements. I mean, Andrew Garfield. Yeah. Look at the extents he went to deny being in the Spider-Man movie.
Oh, no, Spider-Man. We saw you in the suit. That wasn't me.
That was Photoshop. Yep. So,
yeah. So
very cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we had that. There's a few other trailers here and there. I haven't really had a chance to look up. But that was the one I was most excited about. Was the Ahsoka one. But
as far as trailers have been out, though, the new Mission Impossible comes out this week. I'm looking forward to that.
Actually, it's out now. It came out last week, I think.
Oh, I thought it came out this week.
See, I kept thinking that too, and other people posting that too. And I looked on Imagines when I went to get my tickets for Indiana Jones to talk about, and it showed Mission Impossible through. It's got all kinds of showings now. So
let's see, when is it out now?
Yeah,
Part 1 aims for 9.5 days.
Yeah, its release date was July. It says July 12th, but that's today. But it's been out for like a couple days, I think, or something at least. Because I saw
maybe they were doing early screenings.
Could be, but it's all over. It's out. Yeah. So I definitely want to go see that.
Well, I'm planning on seeing it this weekend. I thought Thursday night was going to be the opening, so I've been planning my weekend around that. So, 5-day, yeah. So actually, here it goes. They're doing a 5-day opening week. So instead of opening at the traditional Thursday, they must have opened maybe yesterday. That would be 5 days if they did yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw stuff for like people saw like a Sunday and Monday. It could have been just some smaller screenings, but I don't know. It's a 3-hour movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's if he puts everything into this one and part 2 next year, they put it into Maverick, it should be really good.
I hate when they do part 1s and part 2s though, only because usually it ends in some way where it doesn't feel like a satisfactory movie. It ends in some way where it's like, oh, now I gotta wait a year to see the rest. So I hope they end it in a way where it's a good ending that just ends on a high point that it moves directly into the next one.
I do too. Not some hard, gotta wait a full year to.
Yeah, like the worst I think was the Matrix 2. Like that ended in the middle of the fight, if I remember right. And then the third movie starts in the middle of the fight.
Yeah.
It's like, at least end the fight.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'll get a chance to go see it, but I definitely want to go see Mission Impossible.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Very cool. Very cool. And then
so you started saying, I rudely interrupted you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, while I was gone, I had a chance to catch a couple films. One that Scott saw, the Jesus Revolution. And then
that's right.
You haven't seen yet the Pope's Exorcist, right?
Correct. I want to see that.
Yeah, real quick. I thought it was fantastic. Russell Crowe was phenomenal. And I've seen recently Russell Crowe talk about he's retiring from acting soon or might be done. And he's in his 60s. And who knows? But personally, they set this up to be an ongoing series of movies. And it's based on a real person. It's based on a real guy that was the Pope's exorcist that passed away in 2016. See if I can pull up some information on him real quick. And it's a good horror movie, but it's not overly horror. But there's definitely a lot of with the exorcism stuff, and it starts off really good. It starts off with an exorcism, and what he's doing is basically after he does this exorcism, the guy says he's the devil and everything else. They bring a pig in and they um basically he kind of scares the devil out of the guy, and then they put it in the pig, and then they kill the pig, and supposedly the guy's free. And basically what he said was, some of these people aren't really possessed; they're just delusional. Dealing with the low mental state. They don't get too deep into that aspect of stuff, but it is mentioned again that really he only does like 2 or 3% of his exorcisms are actually real demonic possessions.
Which actually ties in nice for even in reality when exorcisms are taking place. The Catholic Church actually does a lot of investigation into the situation. They bring medical doctors, they bring psychologists in.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of groundwork to verify if this is something real, and a high percentage of the time it really is like maybe a mental illness or some other thing that happens. So it's a low percentage, but they do take care to they don't just assume it needs an exorcism. Let's put it that way.
Right. And he kind of reported to that. Now the Pope they used in this, at the time would have been in the 80s, so it was not Pope John Paul II. They didn't show it. There was a different Pope. They didn't really say who the Pope's name was, so they treated it as a it's inspired by. So it's a fictional telling around a factual guy. So it's kind of like our The Crimson Shadows. It's historical fiction, and so tying some of that real stuff in with that. And I'm not sure if the real when they show in this that's the main story. It was from one of his books. I don't know how real it was versus anything else, but he wrote a lot of books too. So, but he was born in 1925. He was born in at the time it was the Kingdom of Italy, and then he passed away in September 2016. He had served during the with the Italian Resistance against Mussolini and that, and then he became a priest after that. So you can go read about him and all that stuff. But the story's really good. He's been around. Basically, you got the new generation of people in charge of the Vatican wanting to get rid of him and go to different ways. They're trying to be more accepting of people, and it's all. I think it's. I don't know much about Catholicism in terms of all their different things they come up with. Their I forget what they call them, but they had their different things like folk was like, yeah, this is the new rules basically to tie into everything. They come out different ones. But he's good. He's I found him very funny. The guy I guess must have was a joker at times because he told little jokes. Very well done, very well acted. You get that whole little bit with the just like the Exorcist, from the 70s. You get a little bit of that stuff. Not so much the vomiting, but definitely a little more dealing with an actual devil and creature and everything else. And I like the way they handled all that stuff. And it was just very cool for a horror movie. Reminded me a little bit of The Prophecy. It was a movie with Christopher Walken. So I definitely recommend seeing it, and if you get a chance to, it's well worth it. And then, like I said, the ending. This isn't too much spoiler because you know how it's going to end. It always ends with a resolution. They set it up for sequels, in my opinion. And personally, if he does want to do it, you need to get somebody else. This would make a great series in the vein of Evil.
So the real life guy, if anyone wants to look him up, is Father Gabriel Amorth. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Amorth.
Amorth.
He did over 100,000 exorcisms are credited to him. So he's got a vast library of experience back there.
When I read a little bit on that, he said he did like somewhere just a few minutes to several hours to several days. But he dealt with a lot of these ones like come in. Okay, boom, you're absolved, and they were probably walked out the door. So things like that. So it's definitely a good movie to watch. And like I said, I'd love to see it actually as a series, like how Evil is going from this perspective.
Honestly, if the Catholic Church really wants to make some bank, they have an extensive library of all these exorcisms they do. They have like full-blown video and audio, and they have this whole like secret library of all that stuff. They could easily do an amazing series that really tackles the realism of like they just use the real files. People would eat it up. But a series like Evil, but using real life accounts would be amazing. For sure. Anything else on that?
No, that was that one. And then like I said, I saw the Jesus Revolution, and I know you gave a pretty good review of that way back. I will say this: I liked it a lot. I thought it was done very well. I didn't feel like it was too long, but I do feel like they really glossed over. Once the church got started in that direction, they glossed over the problems that they had between the main pastor and the hippie pastor. Because it's like also it was like boom boom boom. He's like healing people, and then he said you can't be doing that theatrics, and then we see he's married, and it's like, well, my wife and I got to work on her stuff, and we're gonna go to Florida, and that's it.
Yeah, I think they didn't want to give a bad name to that person. I don't know.
They did say they reconciled, and they don't need to get too deep into it. I looked it up a couple things, and there's some people questioning the hippie guy's like sexuality and things like that. And that wasn't put into the movie, and it should have. And I don't know how true it was. They were trying to say he died of AIDS. I couldn't find anything actual factual on that. But the other guy, Gary, was it Gary? The younger kid, younger guy that
it was. Oh God, I know his name because I follow him. Pastor.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I watch all his stuff all the time. Anyways, the movie
Greg,
really
Greg
Laurie.
Thank
you. Once you said Greg, I knew it. This really, the first half of the movie, I really like for Jesus Revolution. Mm-hmm. The second half, if you don't know who Greg Laurie is, I feel like it becomes more of his story. The second half. So if you don't know who he is, I can see the second half of the movie kind of being like, "What? I don't care about this guy." Like, so, but the first half I think is phenomenal. And I wish they focused more on the overall Jesus Revolution storyline than making it more about his personal path. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this was made with Greg Laurie. So this is kind of his own biography is really what this movie ends up being.
Right. And that's kind of where it came from. I mean, the Jesus Revolution thing was a real thing. I mean, the Time article, that was real, all that stuff. And it was a thing for a few years. I mean, heck, even Elton John references it in one of his songs, Jesus freaks out in the streets. That's how they were known, was the Jesus freaks.
Yeah.
Which I'd heard of that term even into the 80s and that, is. And that, but there was so much that came from this. It was kind of the birthplace of the mega churches. Mm-hmm. Because you had that happening. I mean, the one, what's his name? I'm blanking on the pastor, Chuck Smith. He ended up with his Calvary churches, ended up with a lot of churches around the country under that Calvary church thought process. And then, like I said, Greg Laurie, he's around quite a bit. And again, I thought they really glossed over. They showed his coming through everything, and then when I didn't know who he was, and so when I find out at the end, like, oh, and I look him up, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I recognize him now. I just didn't know his name, and but he's, again, a lot of his story could have came from that, and so in some ways, I think definitely they should have stuck more with that era of Jesus Revolution and that, which they kind of did, when he goes up to start his church, separate church, stuff like that. But it felt like they pushed that aspect fast. Like he went from being the drug addict to being saved to being to wanting to preach, and then failing with his comic book, little thing he did, to all of a sudden like he's the falling out with the with Lonnie Frisbee, and to all of a sudden Greg be like, yeah, you're ready for your church now. It's like there's so much in there that was missed.
Yeah, they kind of did it felt too rushed.
Yeah,
because that's where I felt like they tried to make it about him okay, we're going to tell the story now about how Greg got to where he was. And it's just too much, too fast.
I think it would have been, if they spent a little more time and it could have been, when Lonnie leaves and then you're dealing with the growth during that time, and how because they said the Jesus Revolution ended like in 1972. That's what they said it in the movie. Right. It's like they could have took it right up to that point and said, okay. And then when did, Pastor Chuck and Lonnie get back together as friends and reconcile, and how was that? I would like to have seen that redemption aspect more than just the other guy's story. And then he needs his own. If his story is that tied into it, they could have done like another one, Greg from Jesus Revolution, or something like that. And it's a second movie, Jesus Revolution 2.
Definitely worth the watch.
It was good. Done very well. And Frazier was excellent.
He did really good. Yeah.
So So I didn't realize he was in it at all because I watched it on the plane and on the way home last week when I was flying home. But Kelsey Grammer was really good. He very convincing. I like the whole cast. But yeah, that last half or last really like third of the movie, they just rush through everything. Point of even Greg's girlfriend, he gets back with her and her family's like all excited for him now to marry their daughter. When it was like 10 minutes earlier, he was like, I don't want that guy around.
Right.
So, but yeah, that was good. So I was like, it was great to see those two films on the flights to and back from Florida, and with flying to San Diego next week. It's a longer flight. We'll see what couple films are on there now. Hopefully, get some new stuff since I flew, because there wasn't a whole lot on there I hadn't seen already because of none of the new stuff. Keep hoping for The Machine. I want to see The Machine.
Yep.
So what else? You said you saw some stuff recently.
Let's see. Well, I've been doing my Star Trek marathon. So this last week I watched Star Trek Insurrection and Star Trek Resurrection. It's interesting. So far I've been loving all the Star Trek movies. Now I got to these ones. Really, this is where the Star Trek movies started falling apart, I think. They just felt like glorified TV episodes instead of movies. Insurrection definitely felt like a TV show expanded. It didn't even feel like a finale. The Resurrection, that's where the Romulans clone Jean-Luc Picard. That one could have made a good season. That would have been a good story arc for a season, and then the movie would have been a good finale for that season. But it also didn't have the movie feel. It didn't have that gravitas to it that a movie typically has. So those two movies were kind of like just so. Fun to watch still, but just felt like I was watching the TV series.
I always enjoyed them. But yeah, I think First Contact was the best one they did.
My favorite was Generations, where Shatner was in it.
Well, I kind of consider that one like a mix. Since it is Generation, I hit it both. But just
the First Contact was good. That felt like a movie.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about that one.
Yeah,
and then when you get into Nemesis and Insurrection, it's they're a little more like episodes, things like that. It's I think the hardest part with that was when you look back, and they can all say something now, but back then they were all trying to get away from Star Trek. Every single actor on the show, on Next Generation, stuff like that. Trying to do other stuff. You had Riker's directing, Jonathan Frakes. He directed two of them. He got to direct First Contact and Insurrection. And then Patrick Stewart's trying to do other stuff. He's at that point doing X-Men and everything else. It's just they're all trying to move on from that, and they can't, and because they're fulfilling contracts of making these movies.
Well, I think the other issue is just quantity issues, fatigue on the franchise, not from a viewer standpoint, but from a writer standpoint. Back then you had Voyager, you had Deep Space Nine, you had the Next Generation. There was so much going on. How do you keep coming up with original storylines?
Right.
And I think that's part of the problem Marvel's starting to run into, because they have so many series, so many movies. You start running into the problem of, I feel like we've told this story already, So we'll see where it goes on those things. But I'm still enjoying them. I think the next one is Nemesis. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. But I'll keep watching those and seeing. But speaking of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, I'm really loving still.
Oh, such a great episode last week too.
Yeah, it does have that old school feel of the original series.
Yeah, and that's what I'm enjoying about it, and that's what I wanted out of a new Star Trek series. Is that old feel of what we saw in the original series and Next Generation. It was the episodic feel. Discovery just wants to be this grandiose thing, and that's where I think it's always failed, because the best one they did was the Pike season, in my opinion. I know it's coming back; people love it, great for them, but nobody really talks about it.
No, you don't see anyone talking about it.
Yeah.
But with Strange New Worlds, like this last episode, for instance, they explore like these small nuances about the human condition. So who are you if your memory's gone? Like what makes you you and that core being? And I thought they had a really cool scenario of this radiation from this asteroid was causing people to forget. And so you were kind of reduced to your base element of who you are as a person. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and also, I mean, as long as I had been on, they kind of referenced it a little bit. Being on the planet for a long time, that essentially the planet had stalled in growth.
Yeah,
because people forgot.
Mhm.
There's just very limited on stuff, and then the one before, the week before, I liked that one too. That was the time travel one with Leanne, and that was a great one as well. I like it, and they're showcasing
That was a real
so many
fun
different,
one.
and they're showcasing different crew members in it too that may not be through the whole episode, but they're you get something more out of, like Ortega's. She was so it doesn't go down, stays on the ship, has to pilot the ship, and she's the one that helps save them.
Mhm.
The computer tells her who she is, and she kept saying it to herself, "I am Ortega's. I pilot the ship." It was great. I love that bit, and comes down and and she helps save the day.
It does create the time travel one
Mhm.
is interesting because so in that one you had a break in the timeline, and she ends up time traveling with an alternate version of Kirk to this other time frame where they have to fix the timeline, and which would eliminate his timeline. And
Right.
but she falls in love with him, and so this will make an interesting dynamic once our Kirk meets her. I'm sure
Yeah.
they're going to have an encounter at some point because she even reached out to him to call him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. So
Yeah,
that will add an interesting dynamic down the road.
Yeah, and that little change too got rid of the Federation. It also made him a captain sooner. There was no Pike, things like that. So it was interesting though that it was the same ship. So
Yeah,
and
and
little
the real,
different look, but yeah.
The real change in the timeline is the elimination of Genghis of Khan.
Yeah,
from the timeline because they assassinate Khan.
Yeah, and Khan is they're making him a little more detrimental to the world of Star Trek. So, which is cool. He's always been a great villain. Great.
Well, it kind of explores in a way that age-old question. If you had a time machine, do you go back and assassinate Hitler as a baby?
Yes, and that's something we talk about with the Indiana Jones too.
Right. So that's what they explore here. The bad guys are going after Khan as a child, and the question is, the dilemma our main character is does she allow it to happen, knowing that this kid is going to grow up to be a monster? So do you allow the monster to live to preserve the timeline, or do you allow because the other problem is if the monster goes away, all the timeline changes in such a horrible way, things are worse.
Yeah, and that's something that's been discussed in a lot of different aspects too. Is if you go change one thing, how does it affect everything else? And that's the big question with time travel and dealing with time travel is how is that going to affect the future? It's everybody says if you go back and kill Hitler, will somebody else worse rise up?
Or will someone good not rise up?
Yeah.
For instance, World War II was essential to the creation of the United States as a world superpower. You take a World War II out of history, a lot of things changed. Even the migration patterns of the world were greatly changed because of World War II. A lot of people had to uproot and move, and all kinds of stuff happened. Yeah. I mean, this would be a completely different world right now.
Yes.
So
well, and all the way from everything from, like you said, the migration patterns of animals to people to technology.
Right. So you go back in time to World War I. Hitler was a courier back then, and there's actually an interaction where the Germans are attacked, and I believe it's a British soldier. They have orders to wipe everybody out, and a young Hitler is unarmed, and the soldier finds him, and is supposed to kill him, but the soldier has compassion and allows Hitler to go. That just think of that one soldier showing mercy in that moment completely changed the course of world history. Isn't that insane?
Well, and that's the whole thing because you follow what he did.
Brett disappeared. So I don't know where he went. I don't know if he accidentally clicked the button or he lost his connection. Oh, here he comes.
Sorry about that.
There he is.
Hit a button and it kicked me out.
I just said that. I think he accidentally hit a button.
Yeah. So,
or
but
we
yeah,
changed the course of time and
there we
he
go.
was
Yeah.
erased from existence.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. So, but yeah, so I mean, that's the whole thing. If you go look at the history of Hitler, through the 20s and the stuff he did, he ended up getting, he got radicalized by the Nazi movement,
Right.
and then rose to power within it. He saw his opportunities and took it.
Yeah.
Because he was, I mean, I would have to assume he was someone that was always an opportunistic person.
Yeah.
And while he was a courier, he was probably one of those guys in World War One that could find you anything. He's a tunnel scrounger,
Right.
And he didn't carry a gun because if he got caught, he's like, "Oh, I'm just a courier."
Right.
Ignore the crap I just stole over here.
That's even where his famous mustache came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got burned from the chemicals.
Yeah, he had a big mustache, and the gas mask didn't seal properly, so he cut his mustache short so it wouldn't happen ever again.
Yeah,
I think it was mustard gas he experienced.
Most likely, that was the big one during World War One. So,
but someone else who fought Nazis.
Yeah, it is Indiana Jones. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. And that I finally got a chance to see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny yesterday, and I gotta say, real quick, I loved it. I thought it was great. Yeah. I it's funny seeing all these different articles pop up about it being woke, being this, being that, and none of them going, did you all even see this movie? This was an Indiana Jones adventure. There was nothing woke about it.
Everyone who knows me knows I'm very sensitive to those things.
Yes.
And I did not get any sense of wokeness in this movie at all. I can't even think of one moment. The thing they're pointing to is the actress who they are saying are going to take up the mantle, but her character makes sense. There's a background to her as to why she would have grown up idolizing Indiana Jones, who was her godfather in the movie series, and she wanted to emulate him. So I saw no issues with the way they did this. I did not see wokeness.
No, it fit a lot of different things. I mean, she in a lot of ways, she reminded me of a mix of the Karen Allen character and Indiana Jones. She would have been a better as a daughter. They'd already established the son aspect before, so making her a goddaughter and who she came with, her father being also an archaeologist, not as adventurous as Indiana Jones, but he was in the thick of things as we see at the beginning of the movie. It did make sense.
Yeah, it made total sense. She wasn't shoehorned in or anything like that. I saw no issue with it.
And they set her up really that whole beginning sequence, which, by the way, you and I talked real quick before, and you didn't get into the movie, which said that the de-aging. Oh my God, it looked like they went back to 1985 and shot Harrison Ford.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. they did such a good job with it.
It didn't look fake. It's very realistic. It didn't have that kind of slight, fake look that you get. It really blended in well.
Now from a non-related but interesting nerd fact. Mm-hmm. So the actress who plays Wombat was her nickname. I don't remember her real name.
Helena Shaw.
Helena Shaw. So Phoebe Waller-Bridge plays her. Now here's what the little nerd fact for me is. So here she is playing with Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones, but she also plays with young Han Solo as L3. She ends up becoming the Millennium Falcon, basically. Mm-hmm. She's the droid that is with Lando. So she's the actress who plays L3 in the bodysuit, and she does the voice.
Nice.
So she's been with both young and old Han Solo. Yeah. Little nerd moment.
Yeah. But I thought this was a great ending to the Indiana Jones movies. At this point in time with this movie here, I don't want them to replace Harrison Ford and try to create a brand new Indiana Jones. Let it be as it is. Maybe forever. It doesn't necessarily have to go back.
The way I would do this, honestly, is find an actor to play Indiana Jones in his 30s, and just Indiana Jones is a series of adventures. You don't have to retell the story. You don't have to change the history. Just join in progress when he's 30 years old on a mission.
Yeah.
And you can just incorporate it that way.
And again, they could do that. And if they get the right actor, do it right, I'd be fine with it. But right now, I'm like, personally, I was like, you know what? This is good. I like this ending to the run of the movies. They reference the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls very little. I liked how they handled it.
Poor Shia LaBeouf. Bye. You were killed off in the first half a minute of the movie.
Well, yeah, but
they
they also the character itself. He went and joined the military and then went to
yeah,
war, which would have been Vietnam,
right.
and they kind of gave a little bit of that, and and because
Yeah.
even they showed a character that had fought Nazis, had been in stuff that, as an older person, to the son saying, "I'm joining up and going in." Um, he says, "Don't do it," and here's what's going to happen, and it did because he saw the differences
Yeah.
between what he had seen before versus everything else. So
Yeah.
but
As
just
far as what
Go
you were
ahead.
talking about though with the actors, the only actor I could, if I had to do it today, the only one that would work for me mentally
Mhm.
is Chris Pratt. I could see Chris Pratt playing that 30-something-year-old Indiana Jones on the Avengers.
I could have a few years ago, but the last few things he's been in, I can't see him anymore.
Yeah.
I personally, I think he would try to take it to humorous and wouldn't play it as straight. I think he would try to have too many jokes.
Well, to be fair though, he's an actor.
Oh, he
that
is.
Would be the director / studio whatever would have to. I agree. If he made it too goofy, fall apart.
I think it would. I think he would. I think it would take it too goofy, and I don't think he could play it. I thought he could do it after seeing the first Guardians and then the first Jurassic World. I was like, okay, he could play more of an action guy. You want a little quips, because even he just had some quips. But I think since then, I've noticed, I feel like he's just getting too much, having to have too many of these quippy lines.
I think that's more the studios though, making him fall into a niche. Like what's that time? What's that? The Tomorrow War, or whatever, the time travel war that he's in for Netflix. He played that serious.
Yeah, but I think that if he comes into this, he'd want too many demands of making his own, and I think that it would take away from the character. I think in a lot of ways, if you're going to do Indiana Jones again down the road here, you want someone early 30s, maybe just on the cusp, kind of like who's the guy you always wanted to play Han Solo?
Oh, Anthony Ingruber. Yeah.
So
I could see him doing it.
Something like that. But like I said, after seeing this, and we'll talk more about the movie now, but I personally am good with them not going out with any more Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I think ideally give the character like a 10-year break.
Oh, at least. I personally wait till Harrison Ford passes away, but he'll probably still be around another 25 years. Ordering his Subway sandwiches, pickles and onions, sweet onion sauce. That's good. But what's funny is watching this, they referenced the Spear of Destiny,
yes,
which was a Dark Horse comic of Indiana Jones and the Spear of Destiny. Now, this comic has nothing to do with what they did in the movie here, but I remember when I watched it going, they dealt with the Spear of Destiny somewhere. It was in the comic. So I remember that from the 90s. I don't own the comics, but I remember
although he, in the movie, right away, he recognizes that it's a replica. So maybe his experience from the comic is how he knew it was a replica.
But in the comic, I went reference to the thing through the ending here. It mentions that they actually had it. So
I also liked in the when they go into his storage locker, you just see all of these. You can just see how much he's collected over the years. So that just is kind of a paying homage to how many adventures he's been on in his career. So you definitely could go back and create these adventures without recreating the whole story.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is there's a lot of stuff they could deal with. I like that they went back to kind of a Raiders of the Lost Ark with this, with the spiritual aspect of it, tied in with the mystical aspect of it. So it was a lot of that in there. Because the whole Dial of Destiny, people are like, what's a Dial of Destiny crap? It makes sense. There's real history behind it between Archimedes.
But here's what's funny. Going back to Raiders, this perfectly fit the same narrative as Raiders, in that if you take Indiana Jones out of the story, it turns out he was irrelevant. Like Indiana Jones was key to the Nazis finding the Ark in the first place. And in this one, if you took Indiana Jones out of it, they never would have found the Dial. So he keeps leading them to all the pieces.
Possibly. But they came to him with all the information, and he just said, you guys know, and he just went, to do it. That was the whole thing. And but I liked it. I like that they dealt with a real historical figure that's not really been dealt with much, which is Archimedes of Syracuse. And I like that when they show him in class and he's teaching about the Battle of Syracuse. And you can see a lot in the first half hour, or the little bit in the flashback stuff because they spent quite a bit of time there that first half hour or so. But when they get back to the real world, you start seeing a lot of nuances where they're giving a lot of so hey, pay attention to this, pay attention to that.
Right.
Little things that wouldn't have meant anything other than you're going to see it later on.
Yep.
That was pretty cool. So,
yep, I enjoyed it. Good stuff.
Yeah,
I recommend seeing it. If you like Indiana Jones, you're gonna, if you like Indiana Jones 1 through 3, I think you're gonna love Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, I like the nuances. It's set in 1969. They gave a point of reference after the moon landing, and they call it Moon Day because they got the parade in New York there for the astronauts. Which you see them, 3 of them sitting in the car when he goes by him on the horse, and then I did like how he gets away from some of the guys and he joins the hippie protest.
Yeah,
hell no, we won't go.
Yeah.
But I did notice too, last thing on with the de-aging, it looked great, but they did use his voice, and his voice is a lot more gruff now than it was back then.
You can tell it's the older voice.
Yeah.
They did not use because they have a way with AI to change it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but after the first 3 to 5 minutes, I got used to the old voice with the young Harrison.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely noticed that the first line he spoke, I'm like, oh, that's old Harrison Ford voice.
Yeah. Now here's the thing: if you are planning on seeing it in the theater, I would say go sooner than later. Unfortunately, it's already winding down after 2 weeks. It's only done 252 million worldwide. The theater I go to in Canton had a 10:30 a.m. E screening, which is the bigger theater they have there. But then everything else was in their theater 12, which sat maybe 75 people at the most. 50. Yeah. I would say it was full. There was only about 4 people younger than me, and everybody else was older than me. But it's one of those screenings. But it was also discount Tuesday with free popcorn. But unfortunately, it is winding down. I don't know why.
Well, I think this goes back to I think the days of the mega movie are gone. I think there's too much competition for people's attention for entertainment.
Well, the thing I'm wondering is, with all the woke talk, which I think it's a lot of people that didn't go see it, I think it really boils down to Kathleen Kennedy, and with her being such a central point of it, I think that kind of hurt the movie.
Well, and that ties into the next movie too, Sound of Freedom. That got released. Yeah. This is where Disney, when you start playing politics.
Well, one of us froze. I don't know if it was me or Scott. Doesn't look like it's me.
I think it was me on my end. But when you start playing politics, they started getting involved with Florida politics, and they're doing certain things with certain messaging. People start reading into it. And I have to say, I did not see wokeness in Indiana Jones. But The Sound of Freedom, this is a movie that just came out. Am I freezing again?
Yeah, you were freezing.
This movie was done 5 years ago. And then Disney shelved it. They did not want this to get out. Through legal battles, the creators of this were able to get it pulled from Disney so that they could release it, and they did it through crowdfunding. Disney has been trying to shut this down. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when you start doing things like that, why are you putting out and then the media is attacking this. Oh, this is a far-right conspiracy, this child sex trafficking. It's well documented how sex trafficking is happening around the globe. This isn't some new topic that just popped up. This has been for Ashton Kutcher. I remember years ago, he was part of a group where they were breaking child sex trafficking rings overseas and stuff. This is a real story. And Sound of Freedom, I highly recommend. Mm-hmm. Very well done. Jim Caviezel does well. This is not a movie where you're going to walk out feeling good, but it's an important message, important movie. It's based on the real events. Tim Ballard is the guy who works with Homeland Security. They're busting pedophile rings. And the question comes up well, how many kids did you save? And he's like, well, none, because that's all overseas. And the guy's like, yeah, here we are busting these guys, but they're not obviously what they're doing is wrong, but the core problem isn't being solved. None of these kids are being rescued.
Yeah.
And that really weighs on Tim Ballard's conscience. They set up this operation, the Sting. They save over 100 kids doing this. in the movie, a wealthy financier backs them because he has to do this privately. They create this fictitious resort where these kids are going to be sold, and they get these child sex traffickers to bring the kids there to sell. And it's really a sting operation. Well, in real life, the actual wealthy financier was Glenn Beck, it turns out.
Oh, wow.
He's the one who financed the whole thing. They did not put that in the movie. I have a feeling they did that to keep it from being politicized. But it turns out it's Glenn Beck in real life who did that, which is amazing. He put up millions of his own dollars to save these kids. It's a phenomenal story. There is a conspiracy theory going around, and I have to say, let me pull it up here. Here's the story. So when I went and saw it, I was amazed at how hot the theater was. Like I was sweating through the whole movie, and I'm like, "What the heck? Are they not paying their bill or something?" Of course, Indiana Jones, the AC was fine. Sound of Freedom, I was sweating to death. Well, there's reports all over the country. Only the Sound of Freedom, for some reason, the AC is not on in the theaters as people watch this. And these reports are coming everywhere. And I experienced it myself. I was sweating. I came out. I was like, I felt like I had to take a shower.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't think of it as some kind of conspiracy. But when you start hearing reports all over the country for the same movie, okay, that doesn't sound right.
Well, that looks like the article you shared there's from Newsweek, which is a legitimate news source.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, I'm just saying, if you went and saw Sound of Freedom, I'm just curious, was your theater super hot too? Mine was.
Yeah.
So I thought that was weird. But go see Sound of Freedom. It's an important movie. It's worth supporting. And as far as the July 4th totals, they did beat out Indiana Jones.
Yep.
To be fair, Indiana Jones had been out for a few days at that point, whereas Sound of Freedom, that was their release day. So they that gave them a little benefit. But when you think of it in comparison to a blockbuster like Indiana Jones, you wouldn't think it would have compared.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's I have to check out that movie and that. But yeah, the thing with this trafficking and all that stuff, look how many times on Facebook someone's posting so-and-so is missing. And this is like my friend's niece, my friend's nephew, my daughter, my son, my whatever. And they're all in that 12 to 17 range. And then you don't get much. You get updates every once in a while. Oh, they found him. Yeah. And those are the few you see. How many more we don't see?
Oh, yeah.
And we hear very few of those. And then, you have things like we've been hearing all these talks of, the Epstein Island stuff, all these Hollywood celebrity people and stuff like that. You have, people like, what's his name, played Mouth and Goonies, coming out talking about the Hollywood and saying he's had, threats against his life.
Oh, yeah.
And
Ricky Schroeder has come out about his experience in Hollywood as a child actor and the things he witnessed. And there's a lot of craziness out there, people.
Yeah, Corey Feldman. That's what I was trying to think of his name. But yeah, it's like he's got names, stuff like that. He says it's not who you think it is. Yeah. And Corey Feldman still to this day defends Michael Jackson. They said no, that was a railroad officer. They went after him because he was an easy target. Right. And even the HBO, that 3-part movie thing they did had to get pulled because they found out that they all those guys lied about it just to get the millions of dollars to make it to fund their own pockets.
Yeah. And I had read, I don't know, I saw something saying Mel Gibson's going to be coming out with a 4-part documentary about human trafficking and Hollywood. I've not seen an official release on that, so I don't know if that's rumor or true. But I know he is, like, he did a lot of promotion for Sound of Freedom. He was involved in some way. And I know they're filming Passion of the Christ 2, right? I believe they started. I could be wrong on that.
Okay.
But they're making Passion
of
the
there's
Christ
a thing from a couple days ago. He put out some audio. He says, these are our children. We have to do this to the future of our children and child sex trafficking. And it says they reported he watched the movie in which Jim Caviezel plays, which of course he's really close with Jim because Jim played Christ for his movie. Yep. But trying to see if anything else here. Don't see anything about a documentary.
No.
But Gibson
could be rumor.
Okay, here it is. IMDb says he is not producing an Operation Underground documentary. It was a false report, according to IMDb.
All right.
see here. People giving him credit, but he's not doing that. So we'll see. It's definitely the last several years we've seen more and more talk about Hollywood and child sex trafficking and some of the links and things like that. And it's not everybody in Hollywood, but it's got to be big enough that it needs to be addressed and dealt with. And how far up the political ladder does it go?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that you can go on, and the thing is, I would say this, it's not one party or the other. Unfortunately, there's sickos all over the place.
Yeah.
So
although there is a sicko living in the White House right now, who is the son of a certain leader who has videos on his laptop that has come out showing him with underage people in Thailand and other places. So just saying that, but no one seems to care about that. But
yeah, and he keeps losing little baggies.
yeah.
I watched
confectionery sugar being left everywhere.
Yeah, one of the reporters asked the press secretary woman, and her answer, I'm going, wow, you just confirmed it without confirming it.
Yep.
Nice going. Instead of just saying next question, you confirmed it.
Yeah. So, but anyways.
Hey, next week I'll be in San Diego, but we're going to try still to do the podcast. And so Scott's going to have to set that up because I'll be on my tablet. We'll probably have a guest with Kevin. We'll see how everything's looking. I'll make sure I got signal where I'm going to be at. Because if it's not going to be a good signal, then I won't be able to pop in. But if I can, I'll at least have my iPad, and we'll try to hang out and chat for a little bit with you guys. And we'll give you the update of us being in San Diego, considering the show hadn't started till that day. It'll start that afternoon. So it'll be 7 a.m. in San Diego time for us. Oh, God. It's going to be an interesting trip next week.
But you'll also be on Michigan time.
That's the problem, is I'll be on Michigan time. I'll be, I went, stayed on all this travel done lately with work and everything else. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get out there and be like, where the hell am I? Why do I see beach?
For me, there is zero issue going that way. It's when I come back. The time change coming this way takes me like a solid week. Because by the time I'm done with San Diego, I'm adjusted to their time. And coming back, I just have a hard time adjusting this way.
Yeah, I kind of do all right, but I'll be a little tired because it's just a tiring show. Coming back, though, is we have an early flight. Our flight leaves at 7:10 a.m. San Diego time on Monday.
You land at like midnight. You lose a whole day almost.
No, we're not doing the Southwest. We're getting in at 4:10. We're doing straight flights.
But still 7 a.m. to 4:10. How many hours is that in actual time?
Well, it's a 4.5, 5 hour flight.
But in clock time, it's like you lose 8 hours or 9 hours or something.
It's because
of the time change.
When I get in, though, the nice thing is I'm getting in at, what I'm trying to say is I get in at 4:10 or so, and it's an easier get in because at least one sun's still out for a few more hours. I get to the house, I drop my stuff off, and then it's a little easier to kind of get acclimated and stay up and then try to get some sleep that night,
right,
and get back on my normal schedule. Versus when you and I flew back and
it was late.
Except for the delay in Chicago, we still were getting back late here, like around 10, 11 o'clock at night. It was throwing us off at that point.
Yeah.
As it was, we got in at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
So that threw me off for 2 days. That took 2 days to recoup from that because that gets into the painful side of it. I've been up for 48 hours, it feels like. And
right.
And I've done that a few times with the overnight flights from out west. And I can't stay up that whole day. I end up having to nap every few hours, and I'm just exhausted for 2 days until I get caught up. But getting back should be fine. I'll just be more tired from the whole thing because, as you know, San Diego is a week-long experience of it's go the whole time.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But I'm looking forward to it. Not sure how much I can see everybody since I'll actually have a table in Artist Alley, and we'll get everything posted on the Bardstone site where everybody can find us. So
very good.
All right. Hey, talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.